All right, welcome. This is called Collecting Student Work with Canvas Assignments. I am Helen Graves, an instructional designer with the CVC OEI, which stands for California Virtual College Online Education Initiative. In today's webinar, I'm going to show you how to use the Canvas Assignments tool to collect student work that might ordinarily have been turned in during class. We have about 45 minutes together, so that's going to give us plenty of time for me to show you some stuff, and then we'll have time for questions. Zoom, if you are not familiar with it, does have a chat feature. You'll find it in the Zoom menu at the bottom of the Zoom window. When you click on the little chat icon, a pop-up window is going to open up. You can type your comments where it says type message here, and then hit return, and it will go ahead and display your message for everyone to see. I'm not going to be able to monitor chat while I'm doing the presentation, so my recommendation is that you jot down your question. It may very well get answered while I'm talking, but if it doesn't, then you'll have it to ask at the end of the Q&A period. So let's go ahead and begin. Most of you that are here are probably in the midst of moving your course online very quickly so that you and your students can finish out the term successfully. So let's put everything into context. There are three types of instruction in our system. On one end of the spectrum, we've got face-to-face teaching and learning, where all the instructor and student interactions are happening face-to-face. On the other end of the spectrum, we've got online teaching and learning, where all that interaction is happening fully online. And then hybrid learning, which may also include blended courses, is where that teaching and learning occurs partially face-to-face and partially online. But nowadays, we're introducing what most people are calling temporary remote teaching and learning, which is what is allowing us to have learning continue when something unexpected like the coronavirus occurs. If you've just learned that you need to transition your course to remote instruction partway through the term, say in week 11, as this example shows, there are a couple of tips to help you do that. So first thing you're going to want to do is assess the situation. So in this scenario, you determine that you've got 6 weeks left that you've got to handle remotely. Second thing you're going to want to do is identify what's remaining in the course. What are the topics, the assignments, the assessments that students still need to complete for the term? And then you're going to move on to step 3, which is where you'll create modules in Canvas and organize your content using pages and assignments and maybe quizzes and discussions, depending on what you're doing. The thing to remember is that at least for now, you are not trying to create a fully fledged online course. Your focus is on what needs to happen for temporary remote teaching and learning to occur so that you and your students are going to be able to finish out this term successfully. So what you need is a way to deliver content to your students, a way to communicate with your students, and a way for students to be able to turn in their work. And Canvas is going to be able to help you to do that. Because we just have a short time together today, I'm starting from the perspective that you've had at least some kind of introduction to Canvas. I'm not going to be going over really basic things like how to log in or how to create a module. We're going to focus on assignments. So if you don't yet have any familiarity with Canvas, you may want to first go do that and then come back and watch the recording of this webinar. The things that I'm talking about are going to make a lot more sense. So let's head into Canvas and take a look at assignments. There are two basic ways to create a new assignment in Canvas. First, I'm going to show you from the Assignments tool, which you'll find in the course navigation. And when you click it, it opens up the assignments area. And if you already have assignments in the course, you're going to see things as you are in my screen. If you don't yet have assignments, any assignments in the course, or if you want to create a new one, you're going to click the blue plus assignment button, and it'll walk you through the steps to create that assignment. You're going to want to give it a name, and I'll call this, oops, if I can type. And then here in this field is where you can edit things. It's a really good idea to get fairly detailed in your instructions for students. Clarity is very important when you're not there with them face to face, to see that confused look, or students can immediately ask you a question about something. So I'm going to show you an example. It's from one of our @ONE professional development courses. So the topic is nothing to do with what you might be teaching, but you can see we've really chunked it down into sections. It's a great idea to include a goal or a purpose. Why are you giving students this assignment? How does it relate to their course content? How does it relate to this particular unit? Just so they have a sense of why it's useful to them. And then spell out the instructions. What do you want them to do? It's really nice if you can put it in steps like this, but just think about, you know what you want them to do. And so to you, it feels really clear, but it doesn't to them. So you want to really think about, what do I need to tell them exactly so that they're going to be able to complete this successfully. We always recommend including a little information about how they're going to get grades, when they can expect those grades, what kind of feedback you're going to give them. This particular example is a peer review thing, so they're even talking about resubmissions, which probably won't be applicable for you, but that's the level of detail you want to be thinking about with your instructions. And it's also a really nice idea to include, if you're not familiar with the Canvas guides, I'll talk about them in a minute, but there are Canvas guides on how to do certain things in Canvas. And they have both instructor guides for you and student guides for your students. And so it's nice to include links to student guides in your assignments or on your quizzes or whatever that are relevant, like, how do I submit an online assignment? Or how do I know when my assignment has been successfully submitted? Because just like you, many of your students did not expect to be learning online. They don't know Canvas necessarily. So it's nice to give them those additional help things. So that's how detailed you might get with your instructions. Once you've filled out the instructions part of the assignment, and you can use the rich content editor to, bold things or create a list. Where did the list go? You can do things. It's kind of like the controls you have in Word. We're not going to talk a lot about the rich content editor, but just wanted you to know you can format it to make it look nice. Once you've done that, that's when you're going to go into the settings part. You're able to add the number of points for the assignment. Don't worry about assignment groups. That's kind of a next level thing. So for now, probably just leave it on the default group that it's in, because if you haven't set up assignment groups, it's nothing you need to worry about. It's something in the gradebook. I would also recommend leaving the default display grade as. There are other options, percentage, letter grade, etc. But those things sometimes impact what's happening in the gradebook. And for simplicity's sake, right now, you don't want to mess with anything like that. So I would just recommend leaving the default grades as points. For submission type, online is probably what you're going to be selecting, because you need to collect those things that they would have been delivering to you face-to-face. When you select the online option, it opens up another set of options. Text entry means that right there on the assignment page, there's a little text box that students can type into directly. Probably not the best choice if what you're asking them to do is give you a full-fledged essay or a 2 to 3 page paper or something like that. The text box really tends to work best more for short answer kinds of things, but it's up to you. If you are having students do something like create a blog and you want to be able to go to their blog, they might be delivering to you a website URL. So that might be the selection you make for the submission type. If you're doing a class where they're recording something, say you're doing speech and you want them to record a presentation, deliver it to you, you might then choose the media recording option. What may be the most common for you, depending on your subject matter, is a file upload, where they're creating a document, a Word document, a PDF, a PowerPoint presentation, something like that. So you're going to have them upload that file as their assignment submission. What's really nice when you have the file upload is you can restrict the file type. I'm a Mac user, and many people are, but almost none of us use Mac's word processing program, that Pages thing. So nobody has the ability to open Pages and read it. And so you probably don't want your students turning in something that was created in Pages or some other off the wall word processing program. So when you have this ability to restrict file type, you can let the students know this assignment only accepts doc, docx, PDF, whatever file types are appropriate to what you're having them do. You don't have to restrict the file type, but it just is kind of a time saver, so you don't get a wacky file type that you can't even read, and then you have to ask the student to resubmit. The other option that might be something you do would be no submission. That's if you're planning to use the Canvas gradebook and they're not turning something in that's an actual deliverable where they would submit. Say again, you're doing that speech class where they're delivering a speech on Zoom, but you want to be able to have an item in the gradebook to be able to give students a grade. So the no submission option creates a column in your Canvas gradebook, but students aren't expected to be submitting anything online. So no submission and online are probably the two options you will be most likely to use in this situation. So once you've done submission type, don't worry about group assignment or peer review. Again, those are kind of next level things that maybe for fall semester, if you're doing your course online, again, you might figure out about those, but for right now, probably don't need to worry about them. By default, this assignment will be assigned to everyone in the course. The next thing you're going to want to fill in is the due date. And when you click this little calendar icon, it gives you a pop-up where you can then navigate to the appropriate date that you want students to turn it in. I'm going to say Friday the 10th. By default, Canvas gives them up until the last minute of that date, 11:59 p.m. You can change that if you prefer that they deliver it by 10. You can say 10, and if you, for some reason, wanted them to do it in the morning, you could even change it from AM to PM, but I'm going to say 10 p.m. and you can see it then changes the time. So the due date is now April 10th, 10 p.m. Anything after that would be tagged as late in the grade book.
Helen, are you okay with us asking questions, or do you want us to wait till a certain time?
I'm going to stop in a moment and ask if there are questions. So why don't you jot it down so you don't forget it, and then we'll get to it.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. The last thing here that I wanted to mention was the available from and until. I think of those as open date and close date. They're optional, not something you have to do, but sometimes you may have a situation where you don't want students submitting until a particular date, and you don't want them submitting after a particular date. So if all you do is enter in a due date, students are able to submit it at any time, and they're able to submit it after that due date. You may open and close this particular assignment. So you'll do it the same as you set the due date. When you click it, it gives you the option of a calendar, and you can set the date from which it's open. You may want it to open a week before, you may want it to open the day before, whatever it is that's true for your situation. And so students, if you set an available date, they'll see it in the module, but they won't be able to get into it. So they can plan for it, but they won't be able to get in and access and submit anything. And the same with the until, the close date. Once you've set that, they will no longer be able to submit after that date. As I said, those are optional, and you don't have to put both. You may just put an open date, or you might just put a closed date. You don't have to put both. Once you've done all of your settings, you're going to then want to click the Save and Publish. And after it does it, if I'd put anything in here, I'd be seeing all that here. And when I go back to, when I go back to the assignments area, I'm now going to see that that example assignment is now living in the assignments area. I do want to tell you that we don't recommend sending students to the assignment area to find their assignments. It's really best used as a holding place for you to set up and manage your assignments. Canvas gives you the ability to create modules where you can organize content for students by week or by unit or whatever. And that's really the best way for them to get access to the assignments. When they're in modules, I'll show you, if they go into the module, they've got the previous and next buttons. So they can just go through that content sequentially until they get to the proper assignment. They don't have to go hunting for it through that whole list of assignments that you saw on my page. Let me do one more, well, no, let me stop for a moment and see what questions you have about that. And then I'm going to go on and show you the second way that you can create a new assignment. So if you have a question, you can either put it in chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask it, go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I am trying to, let's see, submission, oh God, assign to everyone, right? I'm teaching 4 sections and at one, it's all in the same classroom.
So let me make sure I'm understanding. You have 4 sections and they're all cross-listed, so they're in the same course shell. Is that what you mean?
I have acrylic 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're different courses, but everybody's in the same room.
When you say room, do you mean course shell? Because we're talking online now.
I know, but when I'm teaching, they're all with me at once, but they're all doing different classes. So
Okay,
is there a way that I can talk to all of them at once? Because that's how I start my classes when I'm face to face with them. Acrylic 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're all in my classroom at once, and I could give them all the same announcement, but I have not been able to figure that out. How do I access the whole group?
You'll have to talk to your Canvas administrator at your campus and say, I would like to cross-list these sections and talk with them about it. There is a way to have multiple sections be in the same course shell. They're still segregated by section, but you're able to have one place where you're putting the content and assigning it to this section or that section or whatever.
Okay.
But I don't know whether your campus is going to do that or not. So talk with your Canvas administrator about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Another question before we move on?
I have a quick one. Anytime you make an assignment, does it automatically go onto the calendar?
It will, if there's a due date assigned to it.
Okay, just if there's a due date.
Correct, correct. It will also automatically, on the syllabus page, it will automatically go in the summary, which I really like and a lot of students really like because it's a nice time management. They can see sequentially, okay, this is due then, this is due that, etc. If it doesn't have a due date, it just goes alphabetically at the bottom, but they can still see that it's something they're going to have to turn in.
If you have time somewhere at the end, I teach a class in public speaking and I have my group divided into about 5 different groups. And they all have their speeches due on different days. And I ran into the problem of all of a sudden I was having in my grade book, you know, instead of 1 demonstration speech column, there were now 5 demonstration speech columns because I had their assignments connected to it and it was driving me crazy. And I didn't know if there was, I think, yeah, I have to make groups and I don't know how to do it, but.
Okay, so I mean, groups
yeah,
as a whole,
maybe later.
but we'll see if we've got some time because other people may be interested in groups as well.
Okay.
Okay, great. So let me go on and show you the other way to create a new assignment, and then we will just finish off with questions. So we may have lots of time for questions. All right, I showed you how to do it when you go to the assignments area. The other way, and because we do recommend that you create modules so that you're able to organize the content for your students and lead them through it in the manner, the sequence that you want them to consume it. Another really easy way is to, once you've got the module set up, in the title bar, you'll see this little plus column. And when I click it, it gives me a pop-up that allows me to add items to that module. And so I can add an assignment to the module. I can add other things, but right now we're talking about assignments. So you'll see when you open up that pop-up, if you already have assignments created, like I have my example assignment, I can now put it in my module just by clicking, and it automatically adds it. And then I can drag it in whatever order I want it to be. If I didn't yet have the assignment created, I wanted a new one, I click the button, and instead of adding in one that's already created, I'm going to do new. I'm going to give it a name. We'll call it example 2. And that creates a placeholder. It's not going to be filled out yet, but it's in your module. You can put it wherever you want it to be, and then open it up. Come on, Canvas. There we go. I click editor. It gives me that same screen we went through before, where you've got your title of the assignment, you've got the instructions area where you can put all of your lovely and detailed instructions. You can go and set your points, et cetera, et cetera. So it really is the same details of what you'll do with the assignment, but it's just a difference in how and where you're setting it up. I like to set it up right in the module from the get-go, because then when I click Save and Publish and go back to the modules view, it's already there. I don't have to click and create assignments and then come into modules and add it to the module. I just start right in the module. But the same details and settings for how you create the assignment are available no matter which way you're beginning. That's really the basics. I mean, there's a lot more about assignments that you could be doing. And one of the things that may be helpful to you in your global navigation, which is going to be this wide colored band. Yours may be a different color. Some schools have their school color as the global navigation, but there will be a help button at the bottom. And when you click it, and again, your options may be different depending on what your school has made available, but they will surely have made the Canvas guides available. So they're always there for you at the click of a button. When you click Search the Guides, it opens up a new window. You can come down to the guides and then either choose instructor if it's a question you've got, or if you're looking for those links I recommended that you give to students, you can click the student guide and go find it. So right now in the instructor guide, you may want to go after today and look up all the different things and find, okay, I want to know how to do a group assignment. So right there, you're going to go to that instructor guide and it's going to walk you through. So we can talk about it, Bonnie, and answer questions, but afterward you may think, God, now what did she say? I don't remember this. It's a great place to go, and it uses screenshots and it's step by step. They're really helpful.
Thank you. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so it's just always guides really can make a difference for people. Okay, I'm going to stop and open it up to see what questions you have about assignments and maybe a little more, since we do have a fair amount of time. I talked quicker than I thought I was going to. So if you got a question, you can either put it in chat or you can unmute yourself and ask out loud.
Okay, I do have, this is Susan again.
Yeah.
I create these modules, but like I said, I have 4 sections, and some of the modules can be used by all levels. Techniques for painting. I teach painting. So there's techniques I want everybody to see, but I have been having to create a new module each time. It's like,
Right.
4
So
sections.
Susan, this isn't really about assignments, but I'll show you real quickly. There is a way in Canvas to import from one of your course shells to another. So if you go to settings and then the import course content option, you can then choose another of your courses. And so you could, if you'd created it in section A and you're now in the section B course shell, you can import that module directly from section A into this course shell, so you don't have to recreate it from scratch.
Okay.
I'm not going to go into much more detail than that just because it's outside the scope of what we're talking about. But you could maybe go into the guides or do a little, there's all kinds of Canvas tutorials on stuff like this. And so they would be able to help with getting you information about doing course imports. But that's what I'd recommend for that situation.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Anything else about assignments that I didn't cover in enough detail or that I went over too quickly that you'd like to see again?
Is there something special that you have to do if you want it to be in the speed grader, or is that something that just automatically gives you?
Once you've created it, it should show up in, and let me see. Yeah, it'll show up in SpeedGrader. Unless you have created it as a, and Sean or Cheryl, if Cheryl's here, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have created it as a, let me go back and see my assignment options. On, nope, that will too. On paper, will put it in the gradebook too, won't it, Sean and Cheryl? I think all three of these options will put it in the gradebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you were to create it as a not graded assignment, then it
Right.
would
That
show
would
up
be
in
the
gradebook.
right. That would be the only way is if you weren't doing it. But any of those options, once you've created an assignment, it's going to populate in your gradebook, Bonnie.
Which will in turn give you the speed grader option.
Right. Did that answer what you needed, Bonnie, or is there more?
Yeah, there's more, but I was just going to type it in so I wouldn't be a question hog.
Oh, that's okay. Nobody seems to be clamoring. Well, let me check while you pause for a moment. Anybody else have a question before we continue with Bonnie?
I've got two, and one's related to, was it Shannon who just asked that question about importing?
Susan, yeah.
Susan. So I've been trying to import a quiz today. Oops, sorry. A quiz from one shell to another from two different colleges. And the Canvas person at Santa Monica College told me how to do it, but the import things are not the same as what he told me. And I don't know if that's too complicated of a question, but.
Well, if you're doing it from two different colleges, each of those are what we would call an instance of Canvas, and they're self-contained. So when you go to import from college A, it's not going to show you any of your courses in college B because this is a separate instance of Canvas. So that,
That's
if
what
I'm
I
understanding,
I asked him from two different colleges and he said it would work, but I guess maybe he misunderstood.
and Cheryl and Sean, correct me if you know different, but I think the only way to do that is through comments. The best way to do that would be through comments.
You can export an IMS.
Well, yeah, you could do, yeah.
Also.
Did he tell you to export it or did he tell you to do a course copy?
He said to export.
Okay, that, yes. So basically what you're doing is you're taking, let's say it's a file folder, you're taking it out of this drawer and you're putting it in this drawer. And so yes, you should be able to download it from College A onto your computer. And then you would go back into the shell for College B and upload it from your computer.
Oh, just doing it that way.
Right. So you would be doing an export from College A onto your desktop or wherever you save it. And then in College B, you would be doing an import from wherever you saved it. The two courses aren't actually linking.
Even if they're online quizzes? Because before I've had just paper quizzes, but now I'm having to change, you know, put every single question into the quiz and it's taking forever. So I was trying not to have to do it twice for both colleges since I teach the same course at two different colleges. So that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Right. You can export the quiz from the one course and then import it into the other course.
But that's what I haven't been able to do because the import there wasn't, he said it would just be import and then it doesn't have the same import button that he said would be there. It's just, I can read you what I just take a picture of it. The options are for the import, they are copy a Canvas course, which it isn't.
Right.
Canvas course export package when I
That's
got
what it
it.
is.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
then
it
it
is.
That's what
just
it is.
doesn't do anything. It says it's loading, but it never loads.
It's because you gotta wait time.
Oh, so it's going to take
I mean, I've waited hours sometimes.
Okay.
It may take that long, especially because if you think about it, there are now hundreds of thousands of people accessing
Okay.
Canvas, and it may just have a really long load time. So I would just be patient and
Okay.
see.
Because sometimes
Helen.
there's like a gray bar so you can tell it's moving, but this one just has a blue thing that's static. It just says loading, but I can't see anything
Yeah.
moving. So,
Cheryl wants to add something.
okay, thanks, Cheryl.
Hey, Bonnie.
Hi.
Oh, my video's not on.
Yeah.
So the other way too is you might want to just export the quizzes from that section. So you can
Okay.
actually do that without the whole course.
That's what I
And then
did.
it could, okay, but was it the cartridge one or did you try the QTI? Because a quiz is usually a QTI. So I would try it that way next.
A QTI.
It's just
Just
file
try
type.
it because
You
That's
mean
the
on
file
the
type.
on the import side, click QTI?
yeah, watch Helen will show you. Click on select one. It's the last one in the
Where are you sending? Oh, this one. Got it.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
QTI.
just the last one there.
Oh, select that one. Okay. Okay, I'll try
If
that.
you did only the quizzes, yeah.
Yeah.
Try it that way if you did only the quizzes.
Okay.
And another way to do it, and this is for everybody, you can also, if you're not familiar with the Commons, it's
not.
kind of
I mean,
like
I know where it is, but I don't know what to do with it.
it's a place where people share their content that's been created in Canvas, and you can share with just yourself. So you could go and
No.
put
Okay.
something in the Commons and then say, I only want to share it with myself. And then you could go into your other course shell and grab that thing from the Commons and put it in your course.
Say, wait, can you share that one more time? So you go share with yourself somewhere?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to go through the whole
Okay.
thing because it would
Okay.
take too long, but there
Got it.
is a way when you're sharing something to the Commons, you can say, I only want to share with myself, and
Okay.
then go to the other course shell and
Okay.
pull it from the Commons. So there's
Thank you,
different
thank
ways
you.
you bet. And again, there's going to be some guides on that. So if you get stuck, go to a Canvas guide.
Okay.
What other questions do we have? Okay,
This is Susan again.
sure.
I think that question that she just had kind of answers my question, and that's one way that I could get content from one module to another.
Yes, although hers is a little more complicated because she's doing it from two different schools.
Right.
Since you're doing it all from the same school, you can easily import and export just by doing a course copy. That's a little faster
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
settings area by choosing course copy.
And Helen, we can share what we do at OEI with Susan, that if we're going to have one module that's the same in multiple courses, then we put everything that we want in that one module and make sure that we can just copy that one over. That kind of makes it easy.
Right. And then you can move the stuff once it's in the course shell. It doesn't have to stay in that module, but it's a way of having a single thing that you're pulling into the course. I don't know if I said that in a way that made sense. Who else has a question? Oh, you're all very shy.
I have more if somebody doesn't have another one, but I'll wait my turn.
Somebody have a
I
question?
think Roberta's trying to talk. You're still muted, Roberta. You need to unmute.
I'll unmute you. You're unmuted, Roberta.
Okay, this is more for Susan. For a number of years, I taught a creative writing course that had 4 levels of students altogether. And our Canvas person, I asked her to show me how to do it, but she said it was just easier if she did it. And she fixed it so that I could basically handle all, if there were things because they all had different course numbers. And she just did it. It's really easy to do. But we now have people teaching that course who do it for themselves. There is a way to combine them. They figured it out on their own. But again, I don't think there'd be any problem if you just go to whoever's in charge of Canvas, so that you can just, whatever you want to put together, it can be done that way. I can't imagine anybody refusing to do it. That wouldn't be right.
And the term that Canvas uses, just in case your Canvas administrator doesn't understand what you're asking, they call it cross-listing. When you're putting more than one section into the same shell, it's referred to as cross-listing.
Okay.
Should not be a problem, because they're the ones who have these courses taught together.
Yeah, and Cheryl just put in the chat a link to a guide on cross-listing. Thank you, Cheryl.
Ooh,
Oh,
good.
okay.
Excellent.
So one other thing I want to show you is about the guides. And I want to make sure you're seeing my screen again, right? With the slide on it that says want more. Okay, good.
Yes.
I suddenly thought it was off. The other thing is the CVC OEI has a resources page for the temporary remote, a lot of different resources for temporary remote learning and teaching and learning. And I just want to quickly show you some things available there. On this page, it's got by different sections. There is an upcoming events, which has a calendar that allows you to go and find all the different webinars that are going to be offered. You can look at everything and see, that like this has 10 events. So you could open up for today and see a listing of all 10 events. But you could also, if you're back on that main calendar page, there is a filter. So you can type in Canvas, or you might type in Proctorio or whatever it is, and just see, or NetTutor, just see the webinars that are related to a specific topic. So it'll narrow it down for you. We also are offering office hours every day of the week with the OEI instructional designers to help answer questions about Canvas and Zoom. So you might type in, comes up if I type in office hours. Yeah, so it'll, our office hours aren't coming up. I'm gonna have to talk to them.
They renamed it. They renamed it faculty something remote.
Oh, for goodness sakes. Okay, let's try faculty. Yeah, faculty support.
Support.
Okay. So if you type in faculty support, not office hours, then it'll show you the different different faculty support hours that we're offering each day. And those are just open-ended. You can just drop in and ask a question, depending on who else is there. It's not a formal topic. It's to get your specific questions answered. And so again, that was at the cvc.edu resources page. Another resource for you. It's kind of hard to see. Let me make my screen bigger. This link that had really long, cumbersome title is actually quite useful. If you click on it, it's a Canvas shell where we have put in a number of resources for specific audiences. So there's instructor, if you're working in student services, for distance ed and Canvas admins. And so when you go into the instructor options, you'll see there's a bunch of different things that would be available to you. So you can share that with your colleagues as well as yourself. All right, I'm gonna go back and see what other questions. We've got a few more minutes. Anything else that hasn't been addressed yet that you would like to make sure we answer today?
I'd love help with groups if other people are interested in that. So what I'd like to do, if it's possible, in my on-ground class, I divide my class into groups for the whole semester so they know when they speak. So if I can do that so it ends up on the calendar and so it doesn't create multiple grade situations for me in the grade book, that would be ideal.
Canvas does have the ability for you to create groups, and I would recommend the guides because groups can definitely be kind of hard to wrap your brain around.
Okay.
So the guides are really as you walk through it. But when you go into the people tab, and I won't be able to walk you through everything, but basically you would set up a group set. So you might have a group set that is presentations, and you might have a different group set that is discussions. And you would be able to have different group configurations in each group set. So you may only have one group set depending on how your class is divided, but if you want them to be with one set of students when they're doing their presentations, but a different set of classmates when they're doing discussions, you could do that by having different group sets.
Yeah, mine's
Once
going
you
to be
set,
simple, just staying the same.
right, so you may have a single group set. Once you've set up the group sets, when you are in assignments, that's where you would then, and it, oh, I'm not in a shell where I have, let me go back to where I was. When you are in assignments and you're in the details part of an assignment, I got to get there. So many clicks. When you go to groups, you would say, this is a group assignment. And if I had the group set up, I would be able to say, this assignment is for this group, or this assignment is for that group. You also have the ability down in due dates to, if you had groups, you could say, this group has this due date. This group has that due date. So you're able to set up different due dates within the same assignment.
Do you take off the everyone when you do that?
Yes, you would take off everyone. And then, so let's say this is group A up here. I would then click that, I'd give it a due date, and then I'd click add, and I'd say group B is now going to have this due date, and group C is going to have this due date.
Okay.
So it's all a single assignment, but each group would have a different due date.
And just real quickly, the first thing you did with the people, that's where you drag the people from your role, from the roster over into their groups when you're first setting it up.
That's where you're setting.
Okay.
Yeah, the first thing to do is set up the groups. And then when you go into assignments, you'll be able to work with the groups.
Okay, perfect.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've seen it done before. I couldn't remember where you drag the people, so.
Yeah. So yeah, so you go to the people, start with people.
Okay, thank you.
And there are a number of helpful guides around groups. So I would recommend those as your best friend for the next day or two.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Other questions that we can help with? We got about 2 minutes.
Susan again, how do you find those guides again?
Excellent question. In your course, no matter which course you're in, the very left-hand bar that usually has a color, at the bottom is going to be a help button. And when you click it, it's going to pop out this. As I said, your college may have different options, but they're certainly going to offer you the guides. And so you'll just go to search the Canvas guides.
Beautiful, thank you.
And then you'll pick either instructor guides or student guides, depending on whether it's for you or you're finding something to share with your students.
Okay.
Okay?
Awesome, thank you.
You bet. And that's also where you're going to find the Canvas support phone number. It is somewhat impacted right now. Normally, it's a very short wait time. I mean, usually somebody answers right away. You get a live person. Right now, they are having to call people back. But if you really are stuck with something and the guide isn't helping you, call the Canvas helpline because they've expanded their hours. So all the colleges are getting 24/7 support.
Nice. Okay.
And of course, DE coordinator or the people on your campus may have local resources that I'm not aware of that they could share with you. All righty, well, I'm going to stop the share and thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
You're very welcome. We will have a recording of this and it will be in that course that I showed you from the resource, that really long name. When you go to the instructor resources, there's a web page that says on-demand recordings. And so in the next day or two, we're going to have the recording of this call up there so you can come back and listen if there was anything more you wanted, or you can look and see what other recordings we already have there on different topics that you may want to avail yourself of.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very